Very pleased to instead speak to Bill 6, the Securities Amendment Act 2016. Bill proposing to amend the Securities Act to provide for continued modernization, harmonization and streamlining of Alberta security laws and the ongoing reform of the Canadian securities regulatory system. The Securities Act has been amended regularly for several years, with Bill 15 in the spring of 2015, Bill 5 in the fall of 2014, Bill 3 in the spring of 2014, Bill 42 in the fall of 2013, which apparently died on the order paper, and Bill 4 in the fall of 2011. The bill is lengthy, technical, and somewhat esoteric for many of us, but a general overview suggests it's vital to get on with the job of bringing us again up to date and consistent with the rest of Canadian securities law. It bolsters the investigative and enforcement powers of the Alberta Securities Commission. It proposes to authorize a justice of the peace to issue search warrants instead of a judge, to reduce the notice period required for people being summoned to attend an interview with the ASC's investigators or to appear at a hearing, to amend the section of the Securities Act dealing with halt trade orders. Other aspects of Bill 6 will update civil liability provisions, revise the provisions that deal with recognition of exchanges, clearing agencies, credit rating organizations, and trade repositories, and it proposes to expand the ASC's ability to make rules to enhance derivatives regulation. The annual review and updating is required to support the ongoing reform of our Canadian regulatory system, and the process is largely internally driven by our Treasury Board and Finance. It's not that political. Ongoing amendments proposed by both former PC administrations and NDP are consistent in tone and intent. The Memorandum of Understanding regarding securities regulation that was passed in 2004 included all except Ontario in these regulations, and it recognizes that securities regulations in Canada is a matter of provincial jurisdiction, that the securities regulatory system requires constant innovation and reform to keep pace with the rapid evolution of capital markets. The Council of Ministers is committed to maintaining and enhancing the status of Canada's security regulatory system, which is already ranked by the OECD and the World Bank as one of the best in the world. One of the key objectives of the 2004 MOU was to establish a passport system providing market participants with a single window of access to Canadian capital markets. With respect to derivatives regulation, following the summit, the G20 issued a formal declaration calling for common principles for the reform of financial markets, including derivatives. In the ensuing period, there has been considerable and ongoing regulation around OTC, or over-the-counter derivatives, that pose significant risk to many unwary investors. Since Canada, unlike most countries, has a decentralized securities regime, it must rely on its provincial governments to enact legislation providing for increased oversight and regulation, specifically of over-the-counter derivatives, through individual provincial securities regulators. My full support and that of my caucus will be put forward for this. And Canada, unlike most countries, we've had a decentralized securities regulatory regime. The changes proposed in Bill 6 are part of a national effort to harmonize securities rules, and they mirror those being made in other jurisdictions. Bill 6 builds on the earlier regulatory changes that caucus supported during the spring of 2015, the spring and fall of 2014, and earlier. As a province, as a country, we need to be doing everything possible to protect investors and maintain the integrity of our capital markets. If the 2008 global financial crisis taught us anything, it's that complacency and lack of regulatory vigilance can quickly and catastrophically shake world markets and all of our economies. No country or jurisdiction is immune from the effects of market collapse. Therefore, it's important that we do all we can to support the health and stability of the world financial system. Alberta Liberals acknowledge that the proposed changes are necessary for Alberta to be able to honour its national and international commitments to improve regulatory security. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other honourable members wishing to speak? Edmonton Ellerslie.